Welcome everyone to the Weekly Stash, where we talk about everything going on in the comic book universe. I'm Steve McGauley, editor-in-chief of TM Stash. With me, as always, are my two chief writers, Mr. DC, Mr. Marvel, Ed Garrett, Joseph Gagel. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Hey guys, what's up?
All right. Well, let's dive into it and talk about X-O Manowar, which made its triumphant return again this week. And it's all awesome as always, as we always talk about how awesome Valiant is. But Ed, what happened with X-O Manowar?
Well, what we've started is the miniseries Armor Hunters, and this features X-O Manowar. It's one of their major event comics, and Valiant does events like very few other folks do. What's happened here, just for folks who are not into Valiant and would need to catch up, is that X-O Manowar is basically Eric of Dacia.
Are we going to lose?
Visigoth human. You losing me?
You're cutting out there for a second, Ed.
Okay. Is this a little bit better then?
All right.
Can you hear me?
You're back in business.
All right, good. Okay. Quick history lesson. Eric of Dacia is a Visigoth plucked off the planet. He bonds with this strange armor that's the universe's most powerful weapon, kicks everybody's butt, comes back to Earth to reclaim a place for the descendants of the Visigoths, and they've actually placed him in this sort of a reservation in Nebraska, which is an interesting place to wind up if you're originally from Romania and have been spending a few hundred years out in space. Anyhow, now a group of aliens has come in, the Armor Hunters, and they have been systematically killing anyone with a similar armor to what our guy's been wearing, and they don't mind destroying a planet to get there. As a matter of fact, they've decided to show just how serious they are on Earth by getting rid of Mexico City. They blasted it completely out of existence. So they're after the armor. They're not going to rest till they get there. They're certainly powerful enough to get what they want, and basically, you've got X-O Manowar and the Unity team and a lot of other folks trying to band together to repel this threat, if indeed it's even possible to do so. Joe, you've been reading it too. What do you think after looking at issue number 1?
Well, I really liked it. I especially liked the stuff with the Mexico City. It really shows the gravity of the situation. These guys mean business. And that was just, on a conversation where they said, give it to us, and they were like, well, let's talk about it. And they were like, okay, we'll talk about it. Boom. So these guys, they're not here to negotiate. They're here to do what they got to do, and it'll be really interesting to see the next step, who makes the next move.
Right now, Valiant pulling a lot of major stunts in several of its titles. They're really doing some very consequential things that are basically turning their universe upside down. But the way they do it, it doesn't come across as a stunt. It's not one of these things like when Libra killed Martian Manhunter at the start of one of the different Crisis books. It's stuff that is in canon. It's in a reasonable plot line. But it has some really lasting effects. And if you've not been reading Valiant, this is a really good time to jump in. Just a note about Valiant, for folks who are not reading Valiant right now, number one, why aren't you? But if you aren't, you don't need to worry about being left out in a book. Every book you buy in the Valiant lineup, the first page when you open the cover gives you a history of the title, gives you a history of the plot line, catches you up. There is always a jumping on place with a Valiant book, and that's a very purposeful thing that they have been doing since they restarted the line back up a couple of years ago. It's certainly worth checking out.
I'm definitely on board. I will definitely be jumping in to X-O Manowar. It sounds awesome. So that will be added to my pull list for sure. But moving on, we also had some awesome news. Well, another awesome Wolverine. We love Wolverine. But Joe, what happened with Wolverine this week?
Well, this week, Steven started the story arc 3 months to die. Sure enough, after this setup, they're going to start the death of Wolverine. But in this one, was kind of a startup book. He's gone to the Master of Kung Fu and Iron Fist for a bit of hard training and a little ritual, if you will, that gets him a meeting with the being itself, Death, where he gets to find out a little bit about what he has to do in order to maybe survive or maybe just do what he wants to do before he dies, and that's be the one guy to kill Sabretooth. At this point in his life, if he can do that, I think he's going to be happy if he has to forfeit his life. But meanwhile, the guy that he used to work for, the Offer, is made a deal with Sabretooth, and they're on the other end ready to strike against Wolverine. So it'll be really interesting to see how that works out. And on a really quick other side note, I missed this book last week, and I just want to briefly touch on it because it kind of goes along with what's going on here. And in the last Captain America issue, and I can't believe I let it slip by me, but he fights a guy called the Iron Nail. And at the end of the issue, he's pierced by his tendrils, and his super soldier serum is sucked out of him, and he's left an old, crippled man. So like Wolverine, now he's powerless. And this is a really big thing that they've kind of done, and it's supposed to lead up to the September's big Axis event. So they're this is kind of something I've been wondering for a while, is are we ever going to see a time where we have a transition, a passing of the torch, so to speak, between heroes and the next generation? And this really makes me wonder with these two iconic characters if this is something they're working towards.
That is very interesting. That will be interesting to see how that pans out. But I like your conspiracy theory. It's good stuff. But Ed, what did you have going on this week with DC?
One of my favorites from
Batgirl. Some interesting news out of Batgirl.
Oh, this was great, and it's a little bit spoilerish here, but Batgirl has finally gotten fed up with dealing with Nightfall, which is a really neat Batgirl villain that's coming around in the New 52 from Gail Simone. Nightfall is rich and powerful, has a lot of powerful friends, and seems to be able to get out of any kind of trouble she gets into. But while she's taking the fight to her, near the end of the issue, we see them sort of putting the band back together. You see a couple of other favorite Gail Simone characters coming in, and we'll give you one last spoiler warning here. But what she's bringing back in is Black Canary and some version of the Huntress. So this is sort of like pre-New 52 versions of Birds of Prey coming back together here in a way. I mean, obviously, Batgirl is now Batgirl and not Oracle. But it's really neat to see these fan-favorite characters. It's one of those that I wasn't quite expecting to see, but wanted to jump up and down like a little kid when I saw. So that's really it's pretty cool. I got to tell you, I love this, and it's going to be a real treat to see. And meanwhile, of course, Batman Eternal keeps going on, and I'll have more to say about that in the next podcast that we do. But if you're wanting a good DC event, that's definitely the one. Future's End is sort of so-so for me, but Batman Eternal is really good. So don't miss out on that as well.
Awesome. And also, don't forget that this weekend is coming up is Heroes Con. I wanted to toss it in there.
I will be at Heroes Con. If you would like to appear on our site, all you cosplayers out there or any folks that are just fans, look for me. Strange hair, and I'll be wearing TM Stash T-shirts every day. If you come up to me, we can get a picture taken with you, and we'll put you up on our site. We're hoping to get some interviews down there. There are some great creators down there. We certainly will get a lot of cosplay pictures there. And if I can go off on a little side rant for a little bit, and this is for folks who are newer to cons, or maybe even folks who are long-time visitors to cons. There's been a lot of reports that keep coming out of different cons of bad treatment of cosplayers or treatment of some fans, particularly female fans, as if they are quote-unquote fake nerds or fake geek girls. I'm tired of seeing that, And if I see it, I'm certainly going to call you out. And I hope if you're out there and you see someone else acting that way, that you'll call them out and call security too. There's not enough of us geeks out there. If you look at the biggest con that everyone talks about, San Diego Comic-Con, where you supposedly have the highest concentration of geeks in one city in the universe, they'll have 130,000 plus attending San Diego Comic-Con. Guess how many folks there are in just the San Diego metro area? There's over 3 million people. So at our heaviest concentration of people from all over the world, we make up about 4% of the metro area that we're in at the time. That means there's not enough of us. It's not to make you feel bad. It's just to say, why would we want to push away any potential fans from this fantastic medium? So, quit treating each other like idiots. Stand up and say something when you see it. And just a few things if you're there and you're first-timers. You can always ask for permission to take a picture, but ask for permission. And don't bug people when they're in the line for the bathroom or trying to eat. But if you catch them somewhere else, 99 times out of 100 people are glad to have you take their picture. Just ask. And if you're going to try to stand next to them for a picture, don't grab, don't grope. Ask for permission where you're going to put your hands so that you're not doing something really stupid.
And most of the time they love the attention. That's been my experience. They dress up for the attention, and they're more than willing to do pictures. That's why they dressed up accordingly. So take advantage of it. Have fun. Be respectful, everyone. Please. They're human beings like all of us. So, with that being said, what else do we have
characters
coming up, guys?
You're wanting to run past here, okay. You want to talk next week's comics? We're running out of time. I'm sorry.
Whatever else you got, Ed. I'm moving along. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm cooking tonight.
Next week's books. Batman and Ra's al Ghul number 32, where the battle for Damian's body begins. Batman Eternal continues. Over at Dark Horse, Brain Boy number 2, and that's a Fred Van Lente book. It's really good. Dynamite has Turok, Magnus, and Red Sonja, all three coming out. This is a big week for Dynamite. At Image, you've got MPH number 2 from Mark Miller, which is really great, and the premiere of The Wicked and the Divine, which I got to tell you is good, having seen an advance copy. And over at Boom, Clive Barker's Next Testament number 10, and Loki Ragnarok and Roll, which is one of the hilarious books I've seen, has its last issue, number 4.
Awesome.
All right.
Joe, what'd you have?
Go, Joe.
All right, I've got Original Sin continues with issue number 4. The tie-ins are in Nova 18 and Avengers 31. Uncanny X-Men number 2 continues with the Strange Sentinel Assaults. Silver Surfer number 3 by Dan Slott. The Punisher number 7. And in the Thunderbolts number 27, it's the Punisher versus Thunderbolts. Should be a pretty good week for Marvel.
Always a good week for almost everything. But Red Sonja, that's probably that's got to be the pick of the week, right, Ed?
Seeing the advance copy, can't say anything because there's an embargo until Tuesday. But the biggest thing I'll say is grab the issue. You won't be sorry you did. It's a great book.
Never really disappointing with that one.
Oh no, not at all.
You guys have anything else this week?
I think I'm good for the week.
Before we wrap this up.
See you guys at Heroes Con.
Yes, everyone that's going to be in the area, please go see Ed, say hi, and get on the website. But that does it again for this week in the Weekly Stash. Thanks so much for joining us tonight, and have a great week. Keep reading the Stash.
Good night.